Um, I think I think it was you had issue when I said, when the Brazilians,
What
when
about
I
them?
said, um, when I say when black men talk about wanting Brazilians, like that argument makes me laugh, or
Why?
whatever I said,
What's the
Why does it make you?
argument?
Why
because
does it make you laugh?
Brazilians are melanated people. They're not white women.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're not
So
black.
like,
They're not black American women. It's culture.
but I mean, there's still
No, they're not.
some of them could look black here
Yeah,
if
I,
they
I get what you're
to the
saying,
average
but
white
let
person.
me ask you a question, Ellie. Are all Europeans the same?
No,
Why not?
not all Europeans are white either.
Well, but all,
Uh,
even the white Europeans, are they all the same?
no,
No. So why not? So in other words, are all black people, even though they have the same skin color, are they all the same in different
no.
countries? No. So basically, Brazilians are Brazilian. When we say black, we mean black American women.
yeah, and what a lot of people, and another thing you need to keep in mind too, and see, this is what I said earlier in the hangout. Black people don't think in culture, and I
No.
understand that you have a different experience, but we never, but in these conversations, you never hear even black, black people talk. No matter whether it's Carazon or anything, they don't talk about culture. They're focused on race, and the reality is a lot of this matriarchal "I don't need no man" attitude is a cultural attitude fostered in the United States because the black community is a really it's a gynocracy powered by white
Mhm.
patriarchy. And black women, this is why I feel sorry for black women as far as the Meghan Markle stuff, because black women are being taught and imprinted as a group to lust after white men look, as far as what I know in the future, white men are not going to be. And when I say white men, I'm talking about quality white men. We're not talking about
Mhm.
bottom feeding white men that even white women don't want. Talk about the white women that will be like universally attractive to women in general, right? These men are not going after black women like that, not like that. And if they do, they're going to do it sexually. They're never going to commit. And women crave commitment. Women just don't need, dick. They don't want white men to just come in there and make them, single mothers and then just leave and then throw them back in the black community. That's not what black women are looking for. So in reverse, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about a culture. We have a culture of disrespect and contempt and resentment for black men. A lot of that is born out of slavery and how our history is in the United States. Even though Brazilians were slaves as well, and they probably went through a little bit more brutal slavery than we did, you could argue that Brazilian women, because the country didn't get as wealthy as what the United States did, they don't have social programs and shit like that to where they feel the full weight of their decisions. So if Brazilian women, they understand, they know what earning a man is, even if it's a man that looks like them. And it's not just Brazilian women. It's and you can Afro Colombian women. I had a dude on my last hangout, he's Afro Colombian. There's Africans all over Latin America. And they're culturally different than how our women, man, African American women are unique.
Yeah, they're needed. Let me ask you, Ellie, a question because you've already put it out there that you were adopted by white parents, right?
Mhm.
So in other words, so when you go amongst black women, do you see a cultural difference between you and them?
Yes.
In other, and how is there a way that you look at men and you act towards men that's different than them?
Yes.
So in other words, it's not skin color. You've been trained to look at men differently than black women have been trained to look at men, right?
Right.
So in other words, so let me ask you this, okay? I'm not trying to something that I've seen because when my children were in a white school as that differently from them being in a black school, I noticed the way the teachers treated my ex uh, when they had to talk to them versus me with white women, and it was the opposite when I went to a black school. So, in other words, I think that white women, or we'll say women that have been raised in a white culture, have a natural deference. They've been trained to have a natural deference toward men, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
asking you. All right. Whereas in the
Yes.
black culture, it's the opposite. You see, it's the
Right.
exact opposite. I'm sure you've noticed that even though they look at you and they see a black woman, and even though you're not culturally black, it's an automatic difference that you can see. Okay, why do you have to ask? Why do black women treat their men like that? Why do they respond to men like that? What is wrong with the dynamic between black men and black women? Because you don't understand
Yeah,
it because you
people
weren't
just
raised in it.
assume that black men ain't shit, and that's why black people will just assume the women wouldn't act that out of pocket if it wasn't something the men were not doing. And then social narrative is niggas ain't shit, and that's why black women were.
All right. The clip you just heard was taken from Edward Anderson's Hangout. Link will be in the description. But when I was on, the young lady Ellie kept commenting from the, arguing from the comment section. So Edward brought her in. But as you can hear, because she was adopted by white parents and she was raised culturally white, I mean, you can tell by her voice, she was not the typical black woman. In fact, if you didn't see her, she didn't tell you that she was black, you would never guess that she was black, because you wouldn't guess that she's 24 and black. But she is a young black woman, but she does not sound anywhere near being black. She sounds like an older white woman, to be honest with you. But having her there and having her in that forum and having that discussion, I wanted to highlight how a lot of this is culture and how important culture is versus skin color. That's number one. And we talked about that. But the real important thing, or the real interesting thing, is that she actually confirmed something that I have known for, good God, it has to be darn near 30 years, when my son was about 5 years old in kindergarten and I had to interact with white teachers. And my ex, who's a dark black woman, had trouble with the white female teachers at the school, which at the time, it didn't make sense to me, because being culturally black, I'm used to seeing women talk to each other, or black women talk to each other and working together and networking, and black women preferring to talk to women rather than men. I guess you grow up in a matriarchy, that's normal. But my first peek almost 30 years ago into that there was something different is when I had to intervene between my ex and the white teacher of my son. And I noticed my ex had been getting a lot of hell from the white female teacher. But all of a sudden, when I went in for a parent-teacher conference, even though I was a black man, all of a sudden, her attitude towards me was completely different than it was toward my ex. In other words, she gave me what I wanted. She naturally deferred to me as a woman. And that little switch clicked on in my head that there's something different here. Because previously I had never dated a white woman. I had only dated black women. I had been around white women, had talked to white women, had been around white girls. But I had never noticed that interplay, or that difference, the way white women look at men versus the way black women look at men. And that day told me something. What I'm saying is, fast forward to now, to this session, to this conversation with Ellie. When I asked her specifically questions, because Ellie is black. But the thing is, Ellie is culturally white, and she was not raised or not trained to see men the same way. And basically, all the questions that I asked Ellie about the way she observes black women who look like her interact with their men is different from the way she was trained to look at men. And everything, all the questions that I asked her was always yes. Now, the sisters will tell you that that's not true. They will constantly yell up and down that it's not true. There is no difference in the way a white woman will treat you and a black woman will treat you. There is no difference in the way black women see men rather than white women see men. They said it's all about skin color. It's all about how you look. It's all about how men treat you versus how you were raised. And that, if not anything else, what Ellie said basically is the nail in the coffin to me. You have a black woman raised white that can actually see it for herself, because like I called Ellie, she is the reverse spook. She looks black, but she's culturally white. And when she interacts with black people, it's almost like she's a foreign observer, because she's black, she mixes in, and if she doesn't open her mouth, then black people really act themselves. It'd be the same thing as if you were raised black and you talked to white, you were in the midst of white people. It'd be a cultural shock. Now Ellie, who's raised outside the culture, can see. She can actually see the contempt that black women have for their men. She can see the disrespect that black women have for their men. And it's confusing to her. And I know Ellie probably sometimes figure like, what the hell is going on with these people? Because it's not normal in the culture that she was raised in. And I always say that black women do not do this out of spite. Black women do not do this because they hate black men. Black women do not do this because they're on one. Black women are doing this is because it's normal to them. How they talk to black men, how they treat black men, the contempt that they have black men, they were raised with that. There's an analogy that I've used for, good God, 25 years. There is a difference between the way a black mother raises her daughter versus how a white woman raises her daughter. A little white boy will smile at a little white girl, and white mother will observe that interaction between the little white boy and the little white girl. And the white mother will bend over and whisper into her daughter's ear, "Isn't that a fine little gentleman?" And she'll encourage that interaction between that boy and that daughter and her daughter. In other words, that male to female relationship will be encouraged. And I've seen this many times. A little black boy will smile at a little black girl. A little black girl will smile back. And the black mother will not bend over and whisper in her ear, but she'll snatch the little girl by the arm and tell that little black girl, "Stop talking to them nappy-headed little boys." And sometimes those black little nappy-head boys, for emphasis. And every woman I have told this to harkens back to memories of something similar that her mother told her. There is a difference. One is deferment by the white mother. The other is contempt by the black mother. And it is taught from generation to generation. Black men are not seen as men. They're seen as nappy-headed little boys. And they're treated like nappy-headed little boys. Not worthy of respect, but worthy of contempt. You can hear it. You can hear it on YouTube. You can hear it in the media. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it in all of black media. It was apparent when I was a little boy. It's apparent when I became a man. And as an old man, I've been seeing this for years. This is not new. It didn't just start with the gender war. This has been culturally passed down for generations, maybe hundreds of years. And it is so normal, or normalized, as the feminists actually use that word. It's so normal, it's so generationally normal that we're like fish swimming in water. We can't even see it. In fact, most black men can't really readily detect the contempt. They can feel it. They notice there's something wrong, but they can't put their finger on it because it's normal to them. That's the way their mother treated them. Most times, even if you're in a two-parent household, that's the way your mother treated your father. So when you get out and you start dating, and you date black women, which is normal, or you date somebody other than black women, and they become compliant, it's weird to me. In fact, that's probably why I've never dated a white woman and rarely dated another woman. What a woman being compliant to me is foreign. And I'm not gonna lie, I've had other women from other races interact with me, and it didn't seem, it seemed out of step. Because in my brain, when a woman is compliant, that means she's false. That means she's up to something. And it took me a long time to figure out that it wasn't that they were up to something. It wasn't that they were trying to deceive me. It was that these women are acting the way that they were taught. And the aggressive, contemptuous manner that I had been raised with, that I had been taught that was normal. I had been taught that it was normal for women to actually interact with me that way. When it came to something different, my brain computer couldn't compute. It didn't feel right. It's almost like being an abused person, and when you get out of an abused situation, it's not normal to you. It doesn't feel like it's normal. It doesn't feel like that's the way men and women are supposed to act toward each other. Which I think there's something wrong with our women. If there's no drama, it doesn't feel normal. Which is why black women in a relationship will always stir up drama and always stir up things for there to be something wrong, because to be in a black family is to be in a state of chaos. If you didn't fight with your man this week, then there's something wrong. I remember when I was engaged and I lived with my fiance for like a year and a half. And when things were normal and flowing and peaceful, she wasn't happy. There was always something that she would do to try to provoke me into having a fight. She'd always try to provoke me with words. She'd always do something, little silly stuff. And when she would provoke me, she would go back to her girlfriends and laugh, but like that was funny. That was exciting. That I have something to go back and report. Conflict between black males and females is normal to us. And sometimes it's so normal to us that we're not happy unless there's conflict going on between us. There is no peace. I know it's with my ladies channel. If there's no conflict, then I get a lot of comments trying to create conflict. Because for black people, conflict is entertainment. That's why you see the ratchet shows with Housewives of Atlanta, where it looks like people are going to go to blows on every show, because that is our lives. It was my life when I was a kid, hell, every payday. And what Ellie observed is the same thing that I observed. Black people think that what we do in our culture and how we go with each other is normal. It's supposed to be normal. And for a long time, when we're forced to be together, it worked because we had no choice. But as soon as we were let out of that pen, let out of that cage, and allowed to mix, guess what happened? All that dysfunction that had built up over 100 years now is readily apparent. Anyway, it's an observation that I found. It's an observation that I saw or I heard in the hangout that just brought to the fore a lot of what I've been talking about for the last week or so, and also for the last 30 years. And I thought that this particular segment just highlighted or just put a pin in exactly what I've been talking about. But didn't want this to be too long. That's all I got for you brothers today. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one.